already, but I'll do it again. So I just started the recording, and what we're going to cover today is basically the presentation assignments. So this class has basically it's broken into three parts. So the first part of our class, the first module, is just basic business communications in general, and that includes you giving a presentation. So kind of the big assignment in these first 5 weeks or so is putting together this individual presentation and recording it and uploading it, and it's kind of your only presentation that you're going to be able to give. And I've developed it into an online assignment. Typically we do this in person in class, but we don't have that luxury, so we're doing it online. And I did actually one semester have students literally do it live online in Zoom, but it became very difficult to manage all that, so I put it into an online assignment where you record it and upload it, and I'll show you all about that in a bit here. Second session or second module deals with business writing. So we'll be doing a bunch of business documents, such as memos, emails, letters, how to format them, and then what makes business writing different than, say, English writing or essay writing. And so, and it's quite different. Business writing is really all about your reader and your reader being able to quickly read and scan your document. It's not about your flowery language or how eloquent you are. It's about keeping it simple, straightforward, plain English, and then formatting the document that makes it visibly appealing so that people can quickly scan it and quickly read it. And that's completely different than writing an essay where you're trying to impress them with your, word structure and your sentence, word selection and sentence structure and all that. It's supposed to be clean, simple, clear, plain. And so that'll be the second module that we'll deal with, is that kind of stuff. And in the final module, you'll be dealing with employment communications. So you're going to be doing a job search, you're going to be doing a resume, and then ultimately you will be doing a report together as a group. So I'll be grouping you into groups of 3 or 4, and you'll be doing a group assignment. So each section has kind of a main emphasis. And so right now you got it a little bit easy because you only have a quiz, and then you're doing this ongoing discussion post, and then you have the individual presentation. So I'm giving you a lot of time to work on this, but when we get to the next session, you're going to have a writing assignment every week in addition to your quiz and in addition to the discussion post that you'll be doing. So keep that in mind. And so that means you need to be, on it and not fall behind. And those are worth 50 points each. So the writing assignments kind of add up. So anyway, we'll get to that. And we will be doing another Zoom session on the writing assignments and what business writing is, and that'll be in a couple of weeks, also on a Wednesday at 10. So today we're going to focus on this individual presentation assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And here we are in our home page in Canvas, and I'm just going to scroll down since we're still in module 1 for a couple more weeks. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to scroll down here to continue individual presentation. So you probably already read this, but I'm just going to go over it again before I get into kind of the do's and don'ts of presentations. But just to go over this assignment, obviously you don't need to turn anything in. I know that I put the most current week's due date just so that students don't neglect doing this, because if I put the 17th of March as the due date, I'd say about 75% of the class would wait till that last week, and then they'll see it as due, and then they'll try and work on it, and they won't be able to get it done. So I give you the entire session module to get it done. So you should have by now at least began to select your 4 significant life events. That's kind of where you should have started. So I would have just done a scratch list, and that's the assignment, is basically what are your 4 most significant life events. That's what you're doing the presentation on. And so you need to come up with that first. So you always should develop an outline before you plan or prepare a presentation. So put together your outline. What I would do is make a scratch list of all your life significant events, and then you might be ending up grouping a few things together, but ultimately ending up with 4 most significant. And that's what you're going to build your presentation slides on, and that's what you're going to do your presentation on. And so that's what you should have done in week 1, and then week 2 and 3, which leads us up to the weeks we're in right now, actually, this is where you begin to prepare your PowerPoint presentation. So you might want to create a title slide, and I'll show you this with my own presentation, but a title slide should be basically what the assignment is. It's business communications, Biz 22, Norco College, spring 2024, and then your name. And then you're going to have a navigation slide. So that'll be your first slide, your title slide. Then you'll have a navigation slide, which your navigation slide is going to show all four of your significant life events, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what you use to kind of, as your book will say, tell them what you're going to tell them. So when you first start your presentation, you want to give your four significant life events, lay them all out, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to start looking at them each individually in more detail. So that's when you do your next slide. Next four slides will be one for each of your four significant life events. And this should be a bullet list, some pictures, things like that. And then so now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, roughly 6 slides that you've created. Then you want to have a conclusion slide. Maybe it's a recap of the four events, or maybe it's a quote that you've liked that's really shaped your life, or maybe it's just thank you for listening. Does anybody have any questions? That could be your conclusion slide. But you're going to have a concluding slide, and that kind of signals that you're done with your presentation. So again, it should be at least 6 PowerPoint slides, and it says in yellow there, you will not need to upload anything this week either. So you don't need to upload anything until, in this case, March 17th, as it says here, week number 4, which is 2 weeks from now. So you're going to make sure you build your presentation. So again, having a navigation slide, and then I added there with builds. So basically, you're not going to just put your whole navigation slide. You're only going to put the first significant life event. You're going to mention my first event is this, my second event is that. And as you say second event, that item comes onto the screen. Then my third event is this, and that's going to come onto the screen. And then the fourth event is this, and then that's going to come onto the screen. So you're basically building your presentation as you talk. And this is very, very important in presentations. And I'll show you this later on when I give you my presentation. But the reason it's important is it keeps your readers following and tracking with you. Where if you put the whole slide up with everything complete, then they're already reading ahead, and you're talking about point number 1, and they're already reading point number 4, so they're not listening to you. So the best way to keep your audience engaged is don't give them everything at once. Just give them a little bit at a time. Build your slide as you talk, and that's what it means by builds, and I'll show you how to do that. So again, you're going to have a navigation slide. You're going to have bullet points on each slide. You're going to have pictures. This is when you start adding pictures, week number 4. Maybe some transitions between slides, and then you want to make sure everything is no typos, that you have not too small of text, that you're going to just basically dial everything in week number 4, and then you're going to record your presentation. And that's where we get into recording your presentation. And I'll show you how to do that. The easiest way to do it is in PowerPoint. And by the way, I'll just make some disclaimers. I'm kind of trying to get you to use PowerPoint. You can do it in other softwares. You can use Prezi, you can do Google Docs, you can do it in other ways, or Google Slides. The problem there, though, is it doesn't have all the same features as PowerPoint. And I don't know I can't tell you how to record your video of you giving the presentation in any other software but PowerPoint. So you have to figure that out, where if you can utilize PowerPoint, even if it's just for this presentation, if you have to borrow a computer or download it temporarily for a trial run or whatever, you got to have it on your computer, and it's going to be the easiest way to do this presentation. So I'm just saying there is ways to get PowerPoint if you need it. If you're using a Google, what are they called? A Chromebook or something like that? Is that what they're called? Chromebook? Those things are really clunky, and they don't really work that great for presentations like this. A lot of students have trouble creating anything on that computer. So if you're using that, let me know right away. We'll see what we can do you might have to borrow somebody else's computer to do the presentation. But anyway, so you're going to record yourself. So basically it'll be your presentation with a little video of you in the corner, and you can record yourself actually giving the presentation, stepping through your slides with a little video of you on the screen. And then when you're done recording it, you just end it. You can save that as a document, or sorry, as a PowerPoint presentation. I think it's a PPTX, and it'll save it as that. Then you can upload that to Canvas. You can send it over to YouTube. A lot of students like to do that. So put it over to YouTube, and then you can copy the link from YouTube. That makes it easier for me to grade because YouTube opens in a separate window. PowerPoint takes over my whole computer, so I have to watch the whole presentation before I can grade, where the other way I can watch it and grade it at the same time. Either way, you're going to upload it to Canvas, and I will warn you there that it does sometimes have a problem uploading to Canvas because the file size is very large. So sometimes students will start uploading and it'll say submitting, and it'll say submitting, and it'll say submitting, and it'll say submitting for 3 days if you let it sit there. And that means it's not uploading, something's wrong. So in that case, you might want to get a hold of me, or you also might want to upload it to YouTube and then copy the link. And that, again, is the easier way to do it. But some students end up having quite a bit of trouble uploading it. And if you tried to upload it by the due date, I don't penalize you at all. In fact, just full disclosure, I give everybody a week grace period. So even though the due date's the 17th, if they don't get it in by the 17th, I give them a week grace period before I start deducting points off of their assignment. So know that, but best yet, don't wait till the last minute. If you have trouble, if you're trying it a week early and you have trouble, then you have some time to get a hold of me and we can work out getting it to me. Also, just so you know, you can also email it to me. I don't want every student emailing it to me, but if it is not uploading, just email me your PowerPoint presentation, your recorded one, and I have the ability to upload your files as well on my end into your page. So I can do that for you if for some reason you're having trouble. So, all right, so that's kind of the assignment. And then there's some guidelines here as far as your timing. So it's very important in your presentation that you keep it under 5 minutes, but not shorter than 4 minutes and 30 seconds. If your boss or manager comes to you and says, hey, I'd like you to give a presentation on where marketing is at in this last month, give us an update, and you have 5 minutes, then you should respect that and show professionalism and keep it 5 minutes. If you go 5 minutes and 10 seconds or 5 minutes and 50 seconds or even 5 minutes and 1 second, in my context, you start losing points right away. So make sure it's under 5 minutes, but not shorter than 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So you should time yourself. And I will tell you a little secret. PowerPoint does have the ability, if you can figure it out, to actually readjust your time. So let's just say you recorded it and it came out to 5 minutes and 30 seconds. You can actually say, make it 5 minutes, and it'll speed up your speech just a tiny bit to get you at 5 minutes. You can do that. I'm just telling you, that's a cheat in this class. But if you're given the presentation in real time, you want to make sure that you stay by the guidelines that you're given. So 5 minutes. If you go over 5 minutes, you lose 10 points right off the bat. If you go under 4 minutes and 30 seconds, you lose 5 minutes for every 30 seconds that you're short, 5 points for every 30 seconds you're short. So that's kind of the guidelines on that. You'll be graded on the quality of your slides, so how they look, whether or not you used all the things we'll talk about in a minute, builds and navigation slide, and your font size wasn't too small, and that you didn't use too many pictures, but that you used some pictures, that you followed the 6x6 rule, and I'll explain all those in a minute. But that's what you'll be graded on. And then you'll also be graded on how well you present. So whether you're reading your notes, I'll be able to tell that. Whether you're speaking extemporaneously, as your book puts it, which is basically from your knowledge and from your heart. You can have an outline that you look at. You can have notes, you just don't read them. Those are all ways in which you can give the presentation, but are you clear? Are you speaking loud enough? All that kind of stuff. And so that's what you'll be graded on. Then, of course, making sure that you're within the time frame. And then you're also going to be graded on whether or not you comment and view at least 2 other students' presentations. So once we've all uploaded our presentations, before I will grade yours, I'm requiring that you go in and actually view other students' presentations and make comments on theirs. And then once you've done that on at least 2 students' presentations, I will then grade yours. So if I'm not grading yours, it's because you haven't commented on anyone else's presentations. So anyway, so that's pretty much the assignment. There is a rubric at the bottom. Sorry, I just saw that I had a old date in here. So this is what I need to change, because I just transfer over all this information. So here's the rubric right here. You're going to get up to 50 points for your presentation skills, and then you're going to get up to 50 points on your PowerPoint slides and whether you did things correctly, and then your time is right here. So that's what basically your rubric. And I actually copy that. I paste it in the comments, so I give you a score on each one of those items that are listed there. And so that's pretty much the assignment. Now, does anyone have any questions on that? I'm going to show you a little bit more. In fact, if you have any questions, you can ask them now. If not, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to go right into my presentation. So a couple
I
things.
don't have a question, but I just have a comment.
Sure.
For anybody who needs PowerPoint, it's also on the Web Advisor. Every student gets it for free on the Microsoft 365, and it's all web-based. So you can also use PowerPoint from there if you can't download it onto an actual computer or laptop.
There you go. And I'm a little uncertain, and maybe you can help me with this, Irene, is I'm a little uncertain that it gives you all the features. So in other words, I'm not sure how I've never personally done it on the online version, but I think it has all the features, but just be cautious that
From what I viewed, it does have most of the features.
okay.
And if they have issues actually downloading it, they can share the document to you. So that
Yeah.
might be a little easier for them as well. So,
Yeah, what I found is most students prepare it in some online setting and then
mhm.
send me the link and then I open it and I download it to the computer when I'm like giving the presentation, or in my case, I'll actually download it to my computer and then I'll
Yes,
presentation. So and then
just
I
another option.
yeah, and then I delete it after that. So all right, so let me give you a sample.
Derek, I'm sorry, I had two questions.
Sure.
One is, are you expecting notes in our presentations?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, and
Nope.
then the second is, can we upload drafts early for other students to provide feedback and then, update improved versions later?
You can, but I don't know that any students will actually view it. Just because they're most students are looking at what is required in the assignment, right? And so they're going to view it after they upload theirs. In order to get theirs graded, they'll view a few other students, and but at that point, you're going to want to have your final one uploaded. So let's just say you uploaded it right now, and I don't know that anyone would even look at it at this point, just because they're not required to. So I'm more than happy to give you feedback. I think you already did send me, well, you sent me your outline, right? Yeah,
I
is it
did, yes.
Dan? Yeah. So yeah, you sent me your outline. So you're on the right track. So I don't, it's up to you. I mean, you could ask another student, you can message another student, maybe. I don't know how you guys do that if you can, but or if you know somebody, you can ask them to take a look at it. And I'll more than happy to take a look at it as well. So like if you, let's just say you're 90% done and you just wanted some feedback, or even 100% done before you submit your final, you want me to look at it, just email it to me and I'll take a look and we'll go from.
So what you're saying is like publish to YouTube and maybe post on the discussion. I've published my draft. Would people look at it and give me some feedback? And then I can, when I upload the final, I'll leave both the draft and the final, let's say, published on my YouTube channel.
Sure,
And then on the discussion, I'll say, okay, this is my final one for you to grade, Eric. Is that right?
that's fine. That works. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. That's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let me give you a little I did give you mine here, so I'm not gonna, well, let me see. I actually have a more updated one, so let me see if I can find that, as I don't think this is the newest one. So let me find my updated one real quick. I think it's for life events. See if I can find that. And it's not finding it.
Eric, do you want to update the discussion so that your updated presentation is downloaded?
No, I'm just trying to find maybe a little. I gave you a sample in the assignment instructions of my
Mhm.
presentation, but I'm trying to see if I have a newer version of it, because I think I do, that I could show you. If not, I can just show you the other one. It's not a big deal. But I just thought, let me see if I can find a newer one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it. It's not letting me search that folder. Here we go. Okay. All right, I'm not finding it. I'll just go back to the one here. So let me download this one real quick. Okay, I already did. All right, this is just, I'm not going to give my presentation. I'm just going to show you my slides and kind of what I was looking for. So let me reshare my screen real quick. Darn it. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to reshare. All right, you guys are all seeing my slide now, my PowerPoint slides. All right, so this is my title slide. And this is, I like that, and I'm going to go over the do's and don'ts of giving a presentation at the end here, but I like dark backgrounds with light text. So, you got to have good contrasting backgrounds is what I'm trying to say. So don't have orange text on a red background or something like that where you can't read it, right? So keep it where there's a good contrast. So here's my title slide, and then I put, 4 significant life events by Eric Doucette, business communications fall 2020 in no particular order. And so here they are. Number one, I'm going to talk about getting hitched. Number two, I'm going to talk about touring the world. Number three, I'm going to talk about being on mission for God. And then number four, I'm going to talk about down by the river. So this is my navigation slide. And I noticed I built it as I talked. I didn't just have it all up at once. All right, so let's go to my first significant life event is marriage. So I got married in July of 1986. I knew my wife for about 7 months before we got married, which was a very short amount of time. But I was also only 21, and so we kind of had to figure out life together. But I've been married now going on 38 years. This summer coming up. There's a picture of us on our wedding day. And here's a picture of us just a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago now. Then in 1990, we had our first child. His name's Andrew, and he's now going to be turning 34, I believe, believe it or not. And then 1995, we had our daughter Miranda. And here's a picture of our family from about 10 years ago as well. And then here's in 2018, we had our first wedding. So my daughter got married, and I officiated the wedding. And then my son, at the time I wrote this one, my son was still at home, but now he's also married. So that's where the newer version came in. He's also married. So I have his wedding picture. And then we have our first granddaughter, and I have a lot of pictures of her in my newer version of my presentation. But at the time when I did this one, he was still at home, and I put a sad face and a happy face because it's both positive and negative. Second thing is touring the world. So I was in a 1980s hair metal rock band back in the day. Here's a picture of our band. So I'm the second one from the left. And I was the drummer in the band, and we played all around LA. Hairspray was our friend. We used to pull our hair up and spray it, and it would be like this big bouffant at the top. There's another picture of us. We performed all around LA. We were actually a Christian band, so we would go out and play with other Christian bands. Our band's name was Spectra right here. And so we played around, and the funny part was, we didn't play for maybe more than a year or so all around LA, little clubs and churches and different places. But we tried to be different and set ourselves apart. We had all the colors and all that. That's why we called ourselves Spectra. And we would talk about Jesus and talk about Christianity and all that. And 30 years later, there was a special on some podcast where they were talking about 80s heavy metal bands, and they brought our band up. They mocked us the whole time, but I thought at least we made an impression, right? 30 years later, they're still talking about us. So anyway, so then thirdly is on mission for God. So I was very involved at my church for many years called Harvest in Riverside. And after 10 years of being raised up and trained up and serving, they ordained me as an associate pastor. So I served there from 1994, 95 to 2004 as an associate pastor. It's a big mega church that you may have heard of. I also was a crusade director, so I put together those harvest events that you see. They still happen at Anaheim Stadium. I used to put those together, so I was one of the main people. I'd go and travel around the country and put those together, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that. I got to travel quite a bit and see other places around our country as well as abroad. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing it. So you probably, if you've ever been to one of those, it's pretty massive at the Anaheim Stadium every year. And then I actually decided to go back to college and get a bachelor's and master's degree. It took 16 years, as I might have mentioned to you before, getting my AA degree at RCC. It took me 16 years because I was off and on for so many years. And then I went back in my late 40s and got my bachelor's and master's in 2.5 years. But I also ventured out from Harvest, and I started my own ministry out in Grand Terrace. And It's called the Brook Church. There's a picture from a few years ago of us at the theater at Grand Terrace High School. And then I went on to become, started teaching classes at various community colleges. And then I ultimately was hired full-time at Cerritos College in 2019. And then 2020, I was hired full-time at Norco College. And I am the newest full-time faculty at Norco, along with John Alpay, who teaches law. And him and I are hired the same year. And all of us in Norco College, all of us except Patty Warsham are all new faculty. We've all only been there 5 years or less. So, and then lastly, Down by the River. So maybe you saw that movie Brother, Where Art Thou with George Clooney, and there was a scene in there where Delmer goes down to the river. They're baptizing people, and he goes down and he just jumps in line. He gets baptized, and he comes out, and he says, my sins done been washed away. I'm gonna live a new life. And for the rest of the movie, he's trying to live a new life, and he struggles at it, but he does it pretty good for the most part. And that's kind of my story as well. I was raised in a very religious home my entire life. I always had the motto of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I figured as long as I wasn't doing all three in any one weekend, I was good with the man upstairs. But I was empty and unfulfilled and came to the realization that I needed the Lord. And so I gave my life to Jesus Christ and became a follower of Christ back in 1985, somewhere in there. So all these years. And then I got involved in ministry, and I was serving in that, and now I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything. So that's my quick story. That's my 4 significant life events. Do you have any questions? So, all right. So if you noticed, as I was giving my presentation, I had what's called builds, right? So here's my last point, and I talked about the movie. I added a picture. I talked about being raised in a religious home. I talked about that, and I talked about that. And so every time I clicked the arrow on my computer, it added another layer. That's what it means by builds. So you want builds on your slides. Again, if I just put it all up at once and I started talking, you're already reading the very last line. I'm still talking about the first one, right? So in order to keep your attention and have you track with me, I built my slides as I went. Same thing back here with the very first navigation slide that I gave you guys. Here, I did the same thing. I said, well, I'm going to now talk about my 4 significant life. First thing I'm going to talk about is getting hitched. Next thing I'm going to talk about is touring the world. Third thing I'm going to talk about is on mission for God. Fourth thing I'm going to talk about is down by the river. So there's and I built that as I went, right? So again, I could have just put it all up at once, but then you're already reading the other 3 while I'm still briefly talking about the first one. So you want to have builds on your slides. Again, I built this one, so every time I click, it adds another line. Every time I click, it adds another line or picture. So that's what you want to have. And then I also followed the 6x6 rule. You might say, what's the 6x6 rule? Well, it's no more than 6 bullet points with no more than 6 words in each bullet point. So if you look at the screen now, I have 1980s hair metal band. Hairspray was our friend, performed around LA, mentioned 30 years later. That's all I need. I don't need your PowerPoint slides are not your notes. They're really for your audience, but you can use them to jog your memory about what you want to talk about. And so it doesn't have to be complete sentences, but they certainly should not be paragraphs, and they should be roughly 6 words long at the most. You can even have 1 word if you want, but either way, it's the 6x6 rule is no more than 6 bullet points and no more than 6 words per bullet point. Never use paragraphs of text, never use a whole wall of text, those kinds of things you don't want to do. So, and then you can use pictures. I probably used a little bit too many, to be honest. You really only should have maybe 1 or 2 per slide at the most. I used a few more than that on my slides. So especially my second one about when I'm talking about my family, I had a lot of pictures on there. Actually, the new one has a lot more because I have granddaughter pictures now to add. So I have son's wedding, and then I have a bunch of granddaughter pictures. But anyway, so that's my presentation. So basically, you're going to build something like that, right? Your 4 significant life events. But the only difference is rather than me talking to you on camera right now, there's going to be a little video of me right in the corner. Now you might say, well, how do you do that? How do you add that video to your PowerPoint presentation? So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to come back here to PowerPoint. And by the way, you can build your whole slide the nice thing about using builds is you can build your whole slide. So like right here on the second slide, first thing I did was I build my whole slide and then I added animations. Maybe I should show you how to do that real quick. So like, how did I get it so that it built across here? Well, there's animations up here on the menu bar. So all you would need to do is basically build your whole thing here. And I just did this by inputting text boxes. Right here's text box. So I just did that and I typed in what I wanted it to say. And then I just moved it where I wanted it. And then as far as the pictures went, I just imported pictures by inserting picture right here from file. And then I went out, I had already went to Google Images and I downloaded the images I wanted. And then I went over here and I just selected, so here I'll select this Fullerton logo. So here's Cal State Fullerton logo. So now I have the picture and I just resized it. I basically resized it by selecting the corner and then I moved it where I wanted on the page. And then I put the text caption over it. So that's kind of how I built my slide. So once I built it all and I had it all built, then I wanted to animate it so that it didn't come up all at once. So I'll show you, there's a thing here when you go to animations called animation pane right here. And what it does is it opens up this box on the right. And that box on the right, it shows you the order in which all of my images are going to come up on the screen. So 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. So I can delete all these real quick just to show you. So now I have a slide that is not animated at all. So if I'm given my presentation and I come from my first slide and I go to my second slide, watch what happens. Everything comes up at once, right? So again, I don't want it to do that. I want it to come up one at a time, not all at once. So if it comes up all at once, then I am, you're reading the last item before I'm even done mentioning the first. So in order to build it, I need to create the slide in the order that I want it, or the way that I want it to look, which I just did. I showed you how to do that. And now I'm going to animate it. So basically, I'm just going to select the two items I want to appear first. So I selected and held the shift key. So now I'm selecting both of them. And then under animations is all these different ways in which I can animate right here. So I can do fly in. I'm going to select the next one. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select blinds for that one. And then I'm going to select the third one. And then I'm going to do appear on that one. And then I'm going to select by the river. And let's see, what other fancy one can I do? I'm going to do split. Okay. All right. So if you notice what happened as I added them in my animation pane over here, it put them in the order in which I wanted to. But let's just say I got them out of order for some reason. Oh, I don't want that. I want this picture to go before that. I can move it around. So I can say, no, what I want to happen here is I want the titles to come up first on all of them. So I'm going to just move those 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I want all 4 pictures to follow. So I can test it, by the way, by playing it from right here. So, played the whole thing. So let me go back to here. I'm going to play the show. I'm going to hit my clicker. So there's Hitched, Touring, On Mission, By the River. Oh, By the River, I didn't separate. But anyway, there you go. Well, that's because it was the last picture. And then it added all my pictures on the next keystroke. So there's different ways you can do it, but I might say, nah, I don't want to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Hitched first, followed by the picture, then On Mission, followed by the picture, and then I'm going to do By the River, followed by the picture. Is that right? So I can keep testing it. I can come down here and test it, see what it looks like. There we go. Okay, that's the order I wanted in. So now I just built my slide. And you can tell when you select animations, it'll come up and show you the number and order on your slide that you are building the slide. So again, I can go to the next slide and do the same thing. If you notice, the numbers are already there. So number 1's going to come up first, then this picture, then number 2, then number 3 is a picture that you can't see. It's back here. And then number 4 is going to be this line. Number 5 is going to be this line. Then it's going to be the family picture number 6. And then 7 is going to be this line. Then 8's going to be this picture here. And then that's going to be this picture. And then 9 is being my son still at home. And I don't have another picture beyond that. Again, here's the order over here under the animation pane. So you can mess with the order and then you can test it. You can play all. It's going to show it to you in order. I click by play all. That's how I want it to go. Or I can just start the show by clicking the little cup down the bottom here. I call it the cup. And then I can step through it by using my clicker or hitting the space bar, whatever. So anyway, so that's builds. That's how you do it. Sometimes, just so you know, you'll have a text box and for some reason it won't animate. And you might have to create, to be honest with you, a separate text box for each line. But typically it should animate. And I know there's a setting, I just can't remember what it was. There's some kind of setting on it where if you click the text box, you can make it so that it animates. But I'm not, if you're having trouble with it, there's a way to do it. You might want to just Google it and say, how do I animate a text box? And it'll probably give you the setting that you have to change. So, because sometimes, again, like when you animate one line, it'll animate the whole text box, and that's what you don't want. You want to be able to animate one line at a time. All right, any questions on that? Did that make sense? Okay, so I wanted to show you how to do that. So let's see, I'm not going to save that. So let me stop sharing. I think I did. All right, so let's go back to our assignment here. All right, I think that's it on the assignment. Again, oh, I was going to show you how to record it. I'm sorry. Let me go back to the PowerPoint again, and let me show you how to record it. I think that's important. So let me find PowerPoint. Where did I put it? All right, so here's my significant life events again. All right, so let's just say, okay, I got my whole presentation put together the way that I want. I'm very happy with it. Now I want to record my presentation with a video of me in it. So here I want to start at the first slide, and if you come up here to, there's actually in my version, there's a record button here. So there's a record. I can say from the beginning. And then what it's going to do is it's going to allow me, I don't know if you guys can see it at the very top here, there is a couple of options. So I haven't hit record. If I hit the red button in the middle, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
We're still looking at the Canvas.
Okay, sorry about that. Hold on then.
Screen.
Thank you for letting me know that. And sometimes if I don't do this correctly, it'll do that. So hold on. And by the way, you can interrupt me. You don't have to raise your hand. Just say, hey, we're not seeing it. So hold on just a second here. Where's my Zoom? Oh, here it is right here. Okay, stop sharing. Reshare. Sorry about that. If I change programs, sometimes it doesn't work. All right, can you now see my presentation again?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so again, my presentation's done, and I want to make sure I'm on the first slide. So select the first slide so that it's got a little red line around it. And now I want to record it. So if I come up here, and in my case, I have record, but you might just have slideshow, so that works too if you want to do slideshow. Slideshow will just show it, but sometimes slideshow has record in it. My version has record here, so I'm going to select record, and then I'm going to say record from the beginning. All right, so now what it does is it opens up the record options for me. And so right here at the very top of the screen, notice it's 0000. So I haven't started recording yet. And when I select this red dot right here in the middle, it's going to start recording. But to the right of that, I have two features on here. I have a camera, and then I have a microphone. So I have to make sure both of those are active. So I activated the microphone. Now watch what happens when I activate the camera. It puts a video, should put a video of me. Actually, it's there, but for some reason it's not showing. So why? It was showing a minute ago, and now it's not showing. So maybe, there it is. Okay, can you guys see me in the video down there? All right, so now the video is showing. So that means it's going to record you giving the presentation. And I don't know why. Oh, it's saying if I want to add a script. I don't want to add a script. So, all right, so now I'm ready to go. I see the video of me. I see that my microphone is on. So if I select the middle button here, it's going to count me down. Well, greetings, everybody. My name's Eric Doucette, and I'm going to give my 4 significant life events presentation. And then as I click the slides, it's going through each one and I'm basically recording my presentation. Now, for some reason, my camera's frozen, and I don't know why, so I might have to figure that out. But notice at the very top, it's counting down, and I'm going to go ahead and select to be done. End of slideshow. So there we go. So now it's saved that document as a recording, so I can play it back. And there's your video. So it basically saves your presentation as a video. And then when you're all done, you can upload that to Canvas, or you can upload it to YouTube and then copy the link. Either way you want to do it. That's how you record it. So any questions there on that? If you have issues with your video, which I always have for some reason, I used to have no trouble, and now I have issues, but it might be because I have just too many things going on here with Zoom and everything else. You wouldn't be in Zoom when you're doing it. So because if you were in Zoom, I would just have you give the presentation and I would be seeing your video in Zoom, not on PowerPoint. So, but when you're recording it, make sure you record it in PowerPoint. All right, that's it for the PowerPoint. Before I close, any questions? Any more questions? Okay, just real quick, if you want to look on the left over here, notice that I have the picture of me in there on all of these. And I think you can change the shape of the image. That one was around. I didn't try and do that, but I think you can change it to square, rectangular, whatever you like as far as the look. All right, I'm not going to save it because I don't want that video on there. All right, so that is the presentation. So now I'm going to go back to here. You guys can see my, sorry. See my screen? All right, real quick, and I'll end with one more thing. Let's see, I'm going to move all this stuff out of my way. All right, I'm going to look for business. Why this is giving me such a hard time today in searching for stuff. Really struggling today for some reason. Can you guys see that it's trying to load? All right, I might have to just go look for it because it ain't loading. Give me a second. Okay, I found what I'm looking for. All right, I apologize. This is not going to be, it's going to be up all at once. Usually when I do this, I actually build it as I go, but I'll explain each one. So this is going to be the do's and don'ts of business presentations. I think this may even be something that you guys are doing for your discussion posts. So because you're here today and watching this video, you get a chance to kind of see the answers. Yeah, no worries, Irene. No problem. All right, so here's kind of the do's and don'ts of business presentations. I'm just going to go over this real quickly and explain what each item is, so that way you know. And when you're doing your do's and don'ts of business presentations, you want to do it really as two lists. So one list is when you're presenting, the other list is your presentation software. So as far as the do's and don'ts of presenting was the first list here, obviously be prepared. The more that you practice, the more that you understand your topic, usually the less nervous that you'll be when giving a presentation. And so don't over prepare or feel like you have to memorize your whole presentation. You shouldn't, but that you're prepared, that you've done your homework, that you've prepared your slides, that you've got your idea of what you're going to say on each slide. That's very important. And the more prepared you are, the more comfortable and confident you'll be in your presentation, which will come across to your audience. Make sure everything works before you start. So if you do give an actual presentation at work or anywhere else, try and get there a little early, check everything, get your PowerPoints loaded, run through your slides really quick to make sure everything works. If you have any video links or any audio links in your presentation, make sure they work, make sure the sound works. All that's extremely valuable in your presentation, because the last thing you want to do is, oh, wait a minute, it isn't working, right? So you want to make sure you test everything. You should always speak loud enough for people in the back to hear you, unless you have some kind of PA system. If not, do not speak at a normal tone. Project your voice. Speak loudly. That's probably the #1 problem I see with most students' presentations. Not on video, but in person, is they just talk. They talk like their normal level, like you're sitting right next to them. And you just can't do that in a big room or in a classroom. You got to project your voice, you got to speak loud. Smile and look at your audience. So very important that you make eye contact. No, don't stare at people, but make eye contact. And most importantly of all, don't read your slides. Don't turn around and just read what's on the screen because they can read that. You might look at it to jog your memory, but then turn back around and look at your audience when you're speaking. Next bullet point, grab the audience's attention in your opening if you can. Some students have done a good job of this in this assignment where they've maybe made some interesting statement about themselves or something to really grab the audience's attention. The navigation slide kind of helps a little bit to do that. Give the presentation extemporaneously, so don't read your notes, just speak from your heart, speak from your memory, from what you know. Speak like you would that you are talking to somebody else and telling them your story. Don't worry about being so polished and so, professional that you forget to be you. So that's the last thing, be yourself, not the last thing. Second to the last thing, or last thing is be yourself. Second to the last thing, though, is to be conversational and professional, and I would also add positive. I mean, not to say that every topic is positive, but always try and keep your tone positive, keep your tone conversational. Talk talk to us like you would be talking to people that you know, your friend. Don't act, you don't have to be flowery, you don't have to speak in such eloquence that you're trying to impress everybody. Just be yourself, be conversational and professional. So those are kind of the do's in presenting. Obviously dress the part if you can, if you need to, if that's important to the setting. Things like that you might want to consider when it comes to the do's of presentations. Don't worry about your verbal tics or your ums and ahs and all that. That's natural. Just don't be careful that you don't overdo it. That's all. Maybe you record yourself to see if you do. Then the don'ts. Don't stare at the screen and slides. So again, you're not staring at your slides and your backs to the audience. That you're not reading your slides. You can look at them and read the line and then turn around and talk. That's fine, but don't just read what's on the slides. I've had students give presentations. They have a whole paragraph. All their notes are on the slide. And so when they're given their presentation, they just look at the slide and literally read it off the slide. Well, that's not a presentation. So I can tell, by the way, if you're reading. So if you have notes and you're doing your presentation on video and you have them down here like this and you're reading, I can pretty much tell if you're reading. And so I'll be looking for that. Best just to speak from your heart, your knowledge. Don't speak so softly or mumble. That's very important when you're giving a presentation. That's probably the biggest problem is you don't have it comes across as you're lacking confidence if you don't project your voice and speak loud. If you kind of mumble, then your audience can't hear you, or if you speak too softly, they're straining to hear, and that makes it very difficult for them to engage in what you're saying. So, and then be watchful of those ums and ahs. That's fine to have them, but just don't overdo them. Where they're every other statement's or we went, down, to the beach, and when we were there, we, were like people do that. They'll do it's like when you like. Be careful of those kinds of things. That makes you come across unprofessional. But to completely eliminate them might be impossible for some people. So they're not bad, just don't overdo it because it is somewhat natural for people to use some of that in their speech. Okay, then presentation software. So with the do's and don'ts of that. So you should always prepare your outline before making your slides. So prepare what you're going to say first and then make your slides. Don't make your slides and then prepare what you're going to say. Keep slides simple. And this is the key to every presentation is keep it simple, right? Simplicity, less is more. You don't want to overdo it. I tend to overdo things a little bit in my slides, but the more simple, the cleaner they look, the clearer they are. That's going to go a long way in engaging your audience. Not too much stuff going on. Use colors that contrast well. So again, dark background, light text, or light background, dark text. Be careful of contrasting colors that don't fit well together. Use colors that contrast well. You should always use graphics and pictures in a presentation, always, because that's what it is. It's presentation software, so it's visual, so there should be visuals for people to look at. Follow the 6x6 rule. I explained that already. Your font size, make sure it's not too small. Some students have this beautiful slide and then this really small font. So people in the back should be able to read the font on the screen. So that should be about a 30 font. you could probably get away with a 28, but 30 is probably about the size you want to shoot for in minimum size. Use builds. I showed you guys how to do that. And you should always use a navigation slide. Your book will say when you're giving a presentation to tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you've told them. And that's kind of your intro, body, and conclusion. So your intro, tell them what you're going to tell them. That's your navigation slide. The body of your message, tell them. So that's the 4 points. Then your conclusion slide could be tell them what you've told them. And that's a recap. So that's really a good practice to get into. It helps people remember. And then, so that's the last of the do's. And then the don'ts. Don't use your slides as your notes. That's very important. Do not have paragraphs of text. So do not have paragraphs of text. You use the 6x6 rule. Don't use too small of fonts. Don't have typos. So make sure that there's no grammar issues or typo issues in your document or on your slides. And then just don't have too much going on where there's just, things are moving. And I didn't mention transitions, but you should use transitions of some sort, whether that be like I showed you, the animation of dissolving in or blinding out or whatever, but be careful of overdoing it. Some students, they'll have between each slide as they're finished, they'll have one that the curtains close, they go like this and they shake back and forth. And then the next slide, when they go to the next one, it folds up into a bird and flies away. Those are cute and those are funny, but they're not really that professional. And so be careful. If it's a fun, lighthearted presentation that you're giving, then fine, you can use that. But if it's a business presentation, try and keep it somewhat professional and not overdo those kinds of things. So that's pretty much the do's and don'ts of business presentations. And then the last thing I will show you guys, if I could find it before we end, is a world's worst PowerPoint presentation. See if I have it in here. I have it on a zip drive, but I don't want to pull the zip drive up. So let me try putting this. I'm just getting so many things on my, it's not in here. All right, let me try again. I think I might have already given you this. Actually, I think I know where it is. Just go to modules. It's in here. I think it's in here. It is. Where is it? Maybe not. Oh, I didn't include it. All right, well, I'll try one more time to find it. Hold on. I don't know why I'm having such trouble finding stuff today. All right, real quick. If I don't find it, we'll skip this, but it's basically just a, yeah, I don't have it on my computer. All right, I apologize. I'm not going to worry about that. But basically, it was just it's just kind of like a exaggerated example of a very poor use of PowerPoint slides. It has, one slide, everything's going haywire. There's another slide, it has a green background with a yellow text, and you just can't read any of it. They have another one that's a big paragraph of text. So that's all. It's just kind of showing you some poor examples of PowerPoint, but I think we kind of demonstrated by showing you what to do that you don't want to do those kinds of things. So, all right, well, that's it for our session. Does anybody have any questions before we go? Yes, Dan.
So your list of do's and don'ts
Uh-huh.
was there were more than 10.
Yeah. Well, you just need to pick the 10. That's all.
Okay. So
Your list really should be longer, to be honest. And then when you give your final list, just give me 10 of, you could even give me 10 for each, 10 do's and don'ts of presenting, and then 10 do's and don'ts of presentation software. And So in other words, you can have do and don't on the same line and have just 10 lines, you know, that kind of thing. So
Okay, so
not
so it
counting.
shouldn't be 10 do's, 10 don'ts for the
Presentation,
and
presenting.
then 10 do's and 10 don'ts for the PowerPoint. It should be just 10, it should be 20 total, right?
Yeah, either way, I'm not going to count them. I'm just looking for that you got the ones that matter. That's all. So,
Okay.
yeah, because the students' lists are all over the place. I mean, if it's a really brief list and you didn't cover stuff, then you lose points, right? But if you have a decent list and you got everything that matters, then you're going to get full score. So,
Okay.
all right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for your time. I'm going to stop our recording and